quite a lot more on, well, the Senate matter is right there. You also have the issue that's been transpiring in River State. And then, is it been put, has the matter been laid to rest in Lagos State, you know, because that matter now seems to have gone silent. But we're going to be taking all the views from Mr. Laolu Akande, who's a former presidential spokesperson. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning, Mr. Markwell.
Quite a lot to, you know, think about and quite a lot to, you know, express opinions on. You know, it's been 1 week. In fact, it's been like 1 week, 5 troubles, more or less. Not 1 week, 1 trouble again. I'm just, you know, thinking, what, first and foremost, you just heard Senator Peter Nweboyi. Your thoughts, your quick thoughts on that? Well,
you know, I think what is missing in the way the Senate is approaching this matter is that when a survivor, you know, at least that is what she has alleged, a survivor of a sexual harassment case is speaking, you know, the global best practice is don't do anything that might suggest that she's being silenced. And you cannot define where and how she chooses to express herself, because this is a real problem that most women will never talk about. So I understand their argument about following their rules. That's the logic of all of these things. But the emotion of all of these things is stronger than the logic. And that's why it requires, leadership is always expected to be able to balance this thing out. It's not looking good that you have a bunch of men trying to run down one woman who has said that she has been sexually harassed. It's very, I mean, I'm deeply concerned about the conduct of men sticking by the logic and abandoning the emotions.
Well, that raises another kettle of fish, but I want to quickly throw it to Ayo. You know, I'm sure he will also like to get a few questions in. Ayo.
All you just spoke to now is something that is actually quite strong about it. But then it's one part, Laolu, that cannot be legislated. We can't legislate emotions. We can't legislate sentiments. So, and that, I don't know how we can put those in the Senate rules. What do you think?
Yeah, so that is the whole point about leadership. Okay, so yeah, somebody needs to step up in this matter and try to resolve it. First of all, they need to stop all of these images and all these meetings, all of this ganging up against this woman. That has to stop. It has to stop, okay? And then the leadership of the Senate needs to show us that there is going to be a dispassionate consideration of her allegations. That is it, you know. And once that is sorted, if you think that you need to, punish her for violating the rules, which I think doesn't really, I mean, it's something that can be explained and she's warned not to do that again, is the better way to handle it. This idea of all of the men coming out and brandishing the rules, brandishing the red book and all of that, you know, is not looking pretty at all, because this woman has said to the whole world that she has been sexually harassed. So we have to be careful. The Nigerian Senate has to be careful not to create and maintain an impression that we are trying to silence her. And what we have seen so far is a lot of men, 1 or 2 women, but a lot of men holding meetings, speaking out, coming to the media to run this woman down. It is looking very, it's a poor reflection on the Nigerian Senate.
But even at that, going by what you said just now about, you know, the rules, so on the one hand, what Senator Nweboyi said is something that a good number of people haven't really, you know, quite looked at. It would be like a general, should I say, undermining of the rules of the House in a way. Because on the one, initially the argument was that, you know, she didn't, you know, there was no petition. And then when the petition was presented, there is that opinion that it was not rightly done. So it would seem like on the one hand, there is the issue of rules not being followed. On the other hand, is the personalization of the entire thing. Amakwe asked that question the other time, that a formal or official position has quickly escalated or de-escalated into a personal issue. The dynamics are a lot different now, don't you think?
Yeah, and what Nigerians are seeing is the personalization of the whole thing. And Nigerians are not impressed that this is what has come to the center of the focus when we are thinking of the Senate. That's not why the Nigerian people put them in the Senate. We didn't send them there to go and settle and be fighting openly like this. So yes, like I said, their rules are their rules. There must be ways in which they manage those rules so that everybody is in conformity. The woman has now taken her seat, where they said she belonged. That was where she spoke yesterday. When she was going to do the petition, to me, it seemed the woman was trapped. Everybody waited for her to do the wrong thing before they now said, oh, well, you are not supposed to do it that way. But all of those things, they are just legalists, really, honestly. In the high of the ordinary Nigerian, they are legalists, and there's too much of it. What is bad is you have a bunch of men trying to shout down a woman that is alleging sexual harassment, looking very bad.
Well, this whole thing, talking about women, it would seem like the same thing, well, no issue of sexual harassment. It's happening in Lagos because, and it's something that Malkwe has repeatedly brought to our attention, and that's the fact that in a few days, we are celebrating the International Women's Day. And while we're talking about a woman in the National Assembly, we're talking about another woman in the State House of Assembly in Lagos. And it would seem like, okay, the position of the woman has had to be capitulated one way or the other, for political gains or whatever. What's your reading of this evolution in the Lagos State House of Assembly?
Right. I mean, Ayo, you remember that the last time we had this conversation, I did provide the insight that, the dynamics in that crisis had gotten to a point where, those who wanted Obasa back on the saddle, they came up with a winning argument. Namely, you cannot have the speaker and the governor in the same senatorial district. You remember I did say that, and I said on this program that that's a winning argument. That is what has happened. Now, what is going to happen next, we're going to see, how that will be sorted out. I think the Lagos State Assembly tried to assert itself beyond the reaches of, quote and unquote, the godfathers. And they were able to sustain that for, a little less than 2 months. But now they have buckled under the compilation and the piling up of pressure. I mean, Chibisi Akande had to get involved, Aremo Segun Oshoba had to get involved, because the president made the point that you cannot have governor and speaker in the same senatorial district. It was a very compelling argument. Of course, we know that the president is supporting Obasa, who has been his long-term ally, not unusual in politics. But this is what has happened. Now, what is going to happen next is going to be quite exciting. That's my take. Never mind
that another very, very, strong constituency, because for a number of people, I think they wouldn't have minded if APC was playing musical chairs, and saying all of this. But the fact that a woman was involved, and we know just how, it would seem that women's voices do not matter in things like this. And in this instance, some people will say that the second largest constituency, the constituency of women.
Yes.
And that constituency seemed not to have mattered in this instance. This is the first time, mark you, that Lagos State is getting its very first female speaker. And that did not matter. Well, if you listen to what Honorable Miranda herself said when she was leaving, she didn't give an impression of somebody who is disgruntled. She sang a song in Yoruba to say that, well, look, I mean, all of this that has happened, I still consider it to be good. So in terms of, again, the optics, they have managed it at that point. I mean, it was very rough. They managed to get her to say, okay, I'm going to step down.
you know, and she gave a very beautiful speech. But I still think that there is still one more shoe to drop in that matter, partly because, you know, it's important not to also indicate or insinuate or suggest that she's been silenced. She spoke very well. She didn't.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, you know, that's the voice of women. But in this particular instance now, because women groups, of course, were up and down, and of course, they, you know, they were not happy. Women, naturally, generally, were not happy about what had happened. But let me also, you know, take you up on the issue of this issue of independence of the legislature. The APC, even before it became the APC, when it was still their legacy parties, ACN and what have you, they always supported the independence of the legislature, the right of the legislature to elect its own leaders. So they said that, and they showed their support in the emergence of Tambuwal. They kicked when they became APC at the, you know, the emergence of Saraki. But we always see that the National Assembly has always maintained its own right to choose its own leaders regardless of what party supremacy dictates. In this instance, you know, party supremacy, we understand, has won. But can anyone ever come out again to come and tell us, should we see another matter that comes up nationally, you know, the argument that the party should be right or the party is supreme?
Yeah, so it's always the balance of political forces on the ground, you know, that ultimately will determine whether you have party supremacy or you have the independence of the institutions. What is ideal, what we all agreed to do, namely through our constitution, is that the assemblies, the state assemblies, are supposed to be independent. So, I mean, it's an entire arm of government. And that's why the constitution says that they will determine their own rules, whether at the national or the state level. So the ideal thing is for that institution to be independent.
But that has been trumped now, hasn't it?
Well, you know, I think it's an ongoing...
It's an ongoing conversation, because we also see what is happening in River State.
Yeah,
and you can now see a State House of Assembly similarly trying to assert its own independence and its own gravitas, you know, demanding things of the governor, saying your commissioners, they were never presented before us. As a matter of fact, we give you 48 hours to present your budget before us, you know, because we're about to go on recess and we don't want you to say, whatever it is, these are the things that we're beginning to... Can we really explain these things, you know, along the lines of law, along the lines of legalese, or will we all attribute everything to politics?
Well, you know, so in River State, there is a good measure, a huge measure of politics in what is happening in River State, you know, clearly. And I think that it will have to take the same the balance of the equation of political forces on the ground in River State is what is going to resolve this matter. What I'm afraid for Markwe, and it's important to make this point, is that we have to be very careful how this River State matter is managed, because we have gone through this part before. You know, there was a time in this country where they were blowing all the pipelines everywhere, and the economy almost tanked. We don't want a situation where the forces on the ground, we seem to encourage, you know, lawless people. You know, so we will expect that the political forces, namely the governor, namely the FCT minister, and you know, the elders in River State should come together and see the ruling of the Supreme Court as an opportunity to find some kind of reconciliation. I don't think it would be a wise thing for the State Assembly to be bragging like it seems they are doing, trying to give the governor, you know, an ultimatum. That is very unwise. I mean, come on. Yes, it is still the governor's responsibility to bring a budget. You don't need to go on the public to say that we give you 48 hours. You know, come on. You can send a message. You know, now that you have been asserted by the Supreme Court, you know, you can behave, you know, in a matured way. And the whole nation will see that you are behaving in a matured way. They haven't done that yet. Even the governor himself needs to tone down his rhetoric. He needs to tone down his rhetoric. He's a governor.
Well, we do hope that they are listening and listening to some of the counsel that you're dropping this morning. But Mr. Laolu Akande, it's always a delight to speak with you on Sunrise today. Thank you so much for coming on the program. I do fear that that's where we have to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for watching the program this morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.